ended in a draw between Firouzja and Pragnananda, while Gukesh slumped to a loss against Jan Shistov Duda. And this one is a very important game for both these players, but more so for Gukesh, because two losses at the start of the tournament, the Super United Rapid 2025 in Bucharest, would mean very, very tough event for Gukesh. He's adjusting all his pieces. Gukesh, always someone from whom we can all learn a lot about being calm before the game, trying to take the defeats and losses in stride and coming back stronger. And look at Firouzja, he looks super relaxed while Gukesh gets ready for the encounter. Opens the game with knight to f3 and Firouzja brings his knight out to f6. We have the pawn to g3. And let's see what Alireza does. Does he go d5? No, he goes symmetrical. He goes g6, bishop g2, bishop g7, and Gukesh pushes his pawn to c4. Black castles here. And will Gukesh castle? Will he push d4? Will he play knight c3? He goes knight to c3. And Firouzja plays his pawn to d6. The King's Indian defense is on the board. Wow, this is very exciting because King's Indian fianchetto variation always leads to exciting positions. It's quite clear that white has more space, the harmonious development, and black is trying to play in the center. e4 played here. Black takes pawn, knight takes on d4. And here rook goes to e8, putting pressure on the e4 point. h3 played. White would love to play bishop e3, queen c2 and bring the rooks together. But knight c5 instantly puts so much pressure on e4. Rook e1 is kind of forced here. Gukesh does play it. Rook to e1 and now pawn comes up to h6. Gukesh makes this slightly uncomfortable move f3, but I think this is all part of his preparation. Knight h5, attacking the g3 pawn here, and g4 is possible, but Gukesh goes knight e2. We already are in fresh terrain here, and the bishop comes out to e6, attacking the pawn on c4. White's position is filled with certain holes, but Gukesh is pushing now g4, knight goes back, and I believe he will also play his pawn to b3, defending the pawn on c4. This looks very, very interesting position because look at the bishop on g2. It is limited by its own pawns. But what Gukesh essentially is saying is that with my pawn on f3, which looks ugly, I'm keeping the stronghold in the center, and at some point I will unleash myself with f4 and e5. But when will that time be? It requires patience. A lot of patience. Queen d2 played here. And now the knight comes back to e6, attacking the bishop on g5. The bishop comes back to e3. Pawn takes pawn. Takes back. Pawn takes pawn here. And now the knight goes to h7. Gukesh brings his rook into the center of the board. All of white pieces are nicely positioned. Pawn to a6 played by Alireza. And now Gukesh makes a not so great move, c5, because after d takes c5, queen d7, there's this stunning resource bishop d4, which is missed by Firouzja. So he goes bishop b5. He doesn't take it, which allows Gukesh to take the pawn on d6. A big miss, but that move was not at all easy. He takes the knight on e2, rook takes e2 possible, knight takes e2 also possible. He takes back with the knight. And now takes the pawn back. Clearly, this position looks very nice for white. The d6 pawn is super weak. Should we go and snatch it right now? Yes, he takes it. Queen takes d6 is on the board. And now queen a5 played. Alireza is like, okay, I give up the pawn. That's fine. But now I attack here. My bishop is strong. My knight is well placed. My rook is ready to come into the center. Queen a3 played. Not trading the queens. And Gukesh goes knight to c3. He's bringing his knight to the d5 square. Maybe you can take on c3, but Firouzja goes rook a d8, allowing the knight to jump in the center with knight d5. He plays it. Knight jumps into d5. And at this point, Firouzja does seem to be under a lot of pressure. He's a pawn down. He brings his knight. And here, can Gukesh now start pushing with f4? Maybe, but there's queen b4 he plays. He's offering a trade of queens. Queen a2 is hanging. Actually, very interesting move. Queen a2. Knight e7 check is in the air. Will Firouzja snatch this pawn? No, he goes queen b2. Firouzja also taking super risks, but it's a great move by him. Rook b1 played by Gukesh. Is there some ideas of knight e7 pushing the king to the h file and moving the king and trying to checkmate on the h file? Maybe snatching the pawn on a2. What's Gukesh going to do? He goes knight c3. He wants to trap the queen. Queen c2. Perhaps the only move here. Is the queen really trapped? He plays queen c2. Almost trapped. Rook b1. Rook bc1. Plays it. And now queen b2 possible, but there's rook e2 there. The rook is defended. Firouzja comes to d3. The best move in the position. And now Gukesh pushes the pawn in the center. Very important to play bishop f8 to hit the queen. This is a very important move, but he goes knight d5, which is a mistake. I wouldn't call it a blunder yet, but knight takes knight is the best move. He takes it. Well, Firouzja must take with the queen, allowing f4, but it's still a playable position. Instead, he blunders big time. Rook takes d5. Can Gukesh spot the blunder here? It's a big mistake. Can you spot it? Well, here, bishop f1 and the queen is trapped. Nothing more, nothing less. Gukesh, look at him. Zoning in. He seems to have caught his prey here. Bishop f1, Firouzja shaking his head. He's blundered big time. Look at this. The queen has just nowhere to go. Rook b5 played, trying to attack the queen here. Trying to escape somehow to go backwards. But queen takes rook. And he takes here. Takes. And the resulting position, Gukesh, is simply an exchange up. But not just an exchange up. He is also a pawn up. And you can't take this rook here, because I'm going to snatch your rook. So he has to move his rook. Rook to e7. And now rook d1 played. The rook comes to d1. And he plays knight to f4. Attacking the pawn on e5. And here rook c8 played in the position. Where does the black king go? King g7. And you want to bring the other rook. You want to try and checkmate. But for now, the e5 pawn is hanging. So rook e8 played. A great move. Rook c7. And now can we jump in with our rooks? Well, he was about to place it. Rook to d8. And now the idea is rook g8, rook h8. And other rook moves to g8. Mate. Rook c1 check. Bishop goes back. It's time to resign perhaps. Or not. Firouzja still trying to escape here. So a check. King h7. Another check. He goes up and then blocks with the bishop eventually. So it's not a mate. Rook comes up to c3. Attacking the f3 and the b3 pawn. The bishop jumps in on c4. And he plays b5. Gukesh now plays a check. King h7. Rook checks. King comes up. And he takes the pawn on b5. Firouzja comes back with his bishop. And rook e8. Well, Gukesh had this check somewhere, which would have been super strong. But now he goes rook takes b3. Rook check. King h7. Where's the checkmate? Bishop c6 with the idea of bringing the bishop back to e4. A check here. King goes f2, f1, check, king f2, another check. And it seems like Gukesh has to move with his king upwards. But it's fine. It's fine. His king is safe. King to d4. And now rook check. And I believe this is the final accurate move. He has to find king c5. Oh, he's running with his king this way. Another check to the king. King b6 played. Gukesh has a very, very positive score against Firouzja in rapid chess. And perhaps that thing is going to extend today. King a6. This doesn't seem like Firouzja is going to. He goes bishop h6 with just a couple of seconds on the clock. And now bishop e4 check. King g7. And now the rook finally goes to d8. And there is no way to prevent this checkmate. There's absolutely no way no way around it. He gives another check. Gukesh is going to zigzag back with his king. And so Firouzja has lost it and he resigns. Gukesh scores a very, very important win, and I would say one of the most critical wins that he needed to score in this event. The reason is absolutely clear, because with this win he has gotten on the scoreboard. Otherwise he had started off with a loss, and you never want to start